Ancient temples around the world were ingeniously constructed to align to solstice and equinox events. We now know that magi, kings, and their astrologers watched the heavens in order to establish zodiacal time, a means by which even the Anunnaki gods used to set their rulership term limits.
What could have possibly gone wrong among such highly educated observers and mathematicians of ages past that led to the calendar squabbles and new civilizations?
Welcome to the 7th Planet Broadcasting special series, The Anunnaki, for Season 1, Episode 4. I am your host, Matt LaCroix, and I am joined by best-selling author and radio personality Gerald Clark, and truth seekers and ancient ancestral researchers Zechariah Lang, Christa Clark, Troy Gothard, and Billy Carson. Travel with us from the Great Pyramids of Africa to the jungle temples of Mesoamerica as we uncover the occluded calendar connections from Sumer, Egypt, and the lost realm of Mesoamerica.
Does the Mayan long count and early Sumerian calendar hold the clues to proving an Anunnaki connection?
Perhaps the evidence left behind in the deserts of the Abzu and the sweltering jungles of the Yucatan hold the answers.
The first stop on our journey takes us all the way to the deserts of the Giza Plateau in Egypt, beneath the mighty shadow of the Great Pyramids.
Is there perhaps a connection between the ancient builders of Mesoamerica and Egypt, aligning their pyramids with temples and stars?
Maybe the evidence can be found within our own calendar system and the measurement of zodiacal time.
The orientation and precise alignment of the Great Pyramids of Giza match many of those seen in Mexico and Central America.
These ancient builders seem to have understood the importance of sacred geometry, star alignments, and even the ratios of planet Earth itself.
With our advanced technology, could we even replicate their building feats today?
Researching the Giza pyramid construction, it is clear that the pyramids acted like giant sundials, marking the great rising and setting of the sun and moon.
El Castillo in Chichen Itza displays mystical shadowy illusions of a great serpent god descending from the heavens on precisely the solar equinox dates.
The rising of the sun represented rebirth, as the ancient cultures understood that all life is intrinsically connected to its life-giving rays.
Could Mesoamerican solar veneration have been a rudimentary concept of life-giving energy? Or did it possibly symbolize a celebration of the properties of light, an analogous heavenly knowledge taught to the priests by the winged serpent god, Kukulkan?
Given the precision seen in the design of the pyramids, tracking the zodiac and the galactic timescales from Sumer, Egypt, and Mesoamerica, is there evidence linking these cultures via various calendars?
What historical evidence is provided supporting common calendar origins?
Could there be a forgotten connection to ancient astronauts that possessed such advanced celestial wisdom?
The first question that must be addressed is, where did the calendar system come from, and has its true origins been misrepresented in history?
The earliest evidence we have points to the calendar system's Mesopotamian origins, which was based on 4 7-day lunar cycles, whereas our current Julian calendar is based on the solar cycles.
The calendar's original purpose was to mark the dates for religious festivals, which were based on the movements and positions of the planets and stars. The Sumerians studied the movements and influence on the seasons.
The notion that the calendar system was created by and for farmers, advising them when to sow and when to reap their seed, has been falsely promoted and incorrectly taught in schools.
Reviewing agricultural history, it is clear that farmers did not require a calendar to know the seasons, and past primitive societies have managed to feed themselves for generations.
So if the farmers didn't create the calendar, who did?
One of the most profound historical calendar creation events is the Sumerian star chart, and that's dated to circa 3300 BC.
The Sumerian star chart is a circular cuneiform clay tablet recovered in the late 19th century by Sir Henry Layard.
The Sumerian star chart was found in the underground library of King Ashurbanipal in Nineveh, Iraq. This ancient Sumerian relic bridges an important knowledge gap in understanding ancient calendar construction and past astronomical sophistication.
The first name found ascribed to the calendar month in Sumer was the name Izin, which means festival. Each local deity and god received its own place in the calendar, which recorded their reigns.
Who were the deities venerated in the first calendar? And could it be true that the Anunnaki gave mankind this advanced knowledge as described in the Sumerian records?
The earliest Sumerian calendar was based on moon cycles, accredited to Enki's brilliant son, Ningshita. He was later known as Thoth in Egypt.
The lunar calendar was constructed using 4 7-day cycles organized as 52 weeks in a year.
Whereas in later times, the competing solar calendar specified 365 days and had irregular monthly durations which were uncorrelated to the moon phases, like the one much of the world still uses today.
The fact that the Egyptian calendar had its roots in pre-dynastic times, before civilization appeared in Egypt, proves they did not invent the calendar, but rather borrowed this knowledge from the earlier Sumerian culture.
One can compare the Mesopotamian zodiac divisions to those also used in Egypt to see that this is the case.
So who exactly is the Sumerian god known as Ningshita? In Egypt, Thoth was depicted with a man's body and the head of an ibis bird. He was credited with teaching mankind the mystery of the calendar and language.
Thoth is often connected to the Greek god known as Hermes, whose culture inherited a vast collection of Sumerian and Egyptian writings ranging from astronomy, philosophy, and physics to consciousness and deep spiritual teachings.
Astronomical and calendrical secrets of Thoth included the game of 52, which was based upon the year division into 52 7-day portions, resulting in 364 days as referenced in the Book of Jubilees and Enoch alike.
Could the number of weeks in the lunar calendar year be an irrefutable mathematical link connecting Thoth to the later Mayan calendar, whose one read year repeats cyclically every 52 years?
The famous Chichen Itza pyramid in Mexico encodes the Mayan calendar in its construction, clearly depicting 52 panels per side, which in Egypt, as we noted, was Thoth's sacred number.
The number 52 also coincides with the number of weeks in the year when using 7-day weeks based on 4 7-day lunar cycles, totaling 364 days.
The Aztec pyramid ruins of Guacamontes, located near Guadalajara, Mexico, is fashioned as a circular step pyramid with 52 levels, and their chief god was none other than Quetzalcoatl.
Once again, it is clear that Quetzalcoatl's sacred number 52 was the fundamental basis for the circular pyramid design, applying advanced calendar knowledge.
It is now time for modern researchers to acknowledge the mathematical and astronomical wisdom ancient cultures possessed.
Calendar wisdom provided to mankind by the gods from antiquity should rebuke even the most staunch skeptic.
The Egyptians had both a solar and a lunar calendar. The lunar calendar was the artful creation of Ningshita Thoth, whereas the solar calendar was attributed to the Egyptian solar deity Ra, Marduk.
The Babylonian version of the Epic of Creation, the Enuma Elish, credits Marduk with creating a 12-month calendar divided into 3 celestial astrals. This division of the skies into 36 decans as a means of defining the days of the year is clearly a calendar reference.
The Egyptian solar calendar, considered a civil versus religious time system, was very unique in that it was divided into 30-day months termed decans. These were 10-day periods heralded by the heliacal rising of a certain star.
Each star was depicted as a celestial god in the sky, indicating the last hour of the night. And at the end of 10 days, a new decan star would be chosen for reference.
Could it be the case that Marduk, given his Anunnaki council rank at the time was 10, introduced the Decan solar calendar in Egypt to intentionally create conflict with his brother Thoth?
Both Marduk and Thoth were the sons of Enki, Ptah, the great Anunnaki scientist. It appears that the basis of conflict may have stemmed from an unequal distribution of knowledge from Enki to his two sons.
Marduk's knowledge of medicine and healing was lacking, as he was clearly jealous of Thoth's ability to bring the dead back to life. The name Ningishita means Lord of the Artifact of Life.
To understand the entire picture more clearly, let's dig deeper into the origins for the concept of zodiacal ages and the yearly division of time.
Zodiacal time originates in ancient Sumer for festival dates and was also clearly used to establish rulership reign limits for Anunnaki gods and their later liaison kings.
The Enuma Elish affiliation with the zodiacal houses assigned to the Sumer gods is clear. Anunnaki veneration was scheduled for the populace by the mandated dates for their contrived festivals.
This calendrical control system was used to establish the official activities the populace either rejoiced or mourned over, all on behalf of their calendar masters.
For it is well known that he who controls time, in this case the calendar and its appointed festivals, controls the populace that uses it.
Is it possible that the Anunnaki gods were ultimately responsible for the rise and fall of civilizations based on the precession of zodiacal time and the calendar?
The current Common Era Christian calendar was introduced by Pope Gregory XIII in 1582 and was termed the Gregorian calendar, which reformed the prior Julian calendar named for Julius Caesar.
The question arises as to where and when did the calendar conflict come to head between Marduk and Thoth in Egypt, and what was the result?
Violent conflicts developed based on the division methods for Earth's perceived time. Marduk Ra refused to accept the prior calendar division method and was similarly motivated to avenge his father Enki, whom he felt was the rightful lord of the earth, not Enlil.
Thus it seems that Marduk remained in Babylon, Enlil's assigned territory, dragging his family members into conflict in Sumer and later Egypt. As a result of Marduk's defiance over the calendar and the assigned regions, his actions led to his brother Dumuzi's death and interrupted Thoth's rule in Egypt, forcing him into exile.
When Marduk became the ruler of the Egyptian region, he made great changes and established himself as the almighty solar deity. So what changes transpired after Marduk gained power to impose his calendar wishes in Egypt?
Marduk was also known as Amun-Ra in Egypt, and based on my research, was the being referenced by Enlil Yahweh as Lucifer in the biblical verse Isaiah 14:12. The Latin Vulgate term Lucifer, which appears in the King James Bible, replaced the term morning star, a celestial allusion to the planet Venus.
Consider that Isis claimed the planet Venus as her celestial sign, and her son Marduk occupying the city of Babylon was a very sore point for biblical editor Enlil Yahweh, Lord of the Command for the Mesopotamian region.
Could this perhaps be the catalyst that led to many wars between the Amalekites and Enkhi's clan, represented by Marduk's stubborn occupation of Babylon, his gateway to the gods?
Consider this fact. Every time you say a prayer and end it with Amen or Amen, you are praising Amen-Ra, Marduk.
After Marduk established the new solar calendar system, the lunar model used by Thoth was in conflict and led to a quarrel and the eventual departure from Egypt to pursue creating his own new civilization.
Scientific evidence now clearly points to Thoth's exile path to be connected significantly to South and Central America.
Could Thoth's exile migration route have taken him all the way to Mesoamerica, land of the winged serpent? Perhaps the mysterious Olmec race in ancient Mexico can provide evidence to validate this hypothesis.
There are many theories about how the Olmecs came to be in Mexico. Some theories have them as Asian hunter-gatherers who trace their beginnings to shortly after the last ice age, about 12,000 years ago.
Other scientists, historians, and anthropologists, however, make convincing and cognate arguments based on new evidence that the Olmec people can trace their roots back to Africa.
Numerous nautical map sources suggest that global winds and currents support the idea that ships could have sailed from Africa to the southernmost shores of Mesoamerica intentionally or accidentally.
For example, one branch of a northern equatorial current could have carried African sailors from North or West Africa into the Gulf of Mexico.
Let's look a little further to the origins of Olmec people to find further clues.
Numerous artifacts have been found in Mexico that portray a hieroglyphic style of writing that is very similar to those of the Mandingo people of West Africa.
Scholars recognize that the Olmecs engraved many symbols or signs on pottery, statuettes, and other objects that have been identified as potentially the earliest form of writing in the Americas.
Evidence suggests that the Olmec race in early Mexican records originated somewhere in Western Africa, perhaps around the Niger River Valley civilizations, approximately 3,200 BCE.
Language and mining skills were possessed by the Mandingo-speaking peoples near Ghana and Sierra Leone during the same period in history.
Could it be a coincidence that the Olmec brought with them stone masonry skills, gold mining practices, and language that also used calendar knowledge to establish an arrival long count inherited by the Maya?
Is the Mandingo race of Western Africa the ancestral source of the Olmec people? Much of the evidence seems to point to that. Let's look closer.
The Olmec culture may very well have been the first Mesoamericans to develop a writing system. Although there are disputes as to whether markings on recovered artifacts rise to the level of writing, there's enough evidence to suggest that the symbols found in 2002, dated to 650 BC, are actually a form of Olmec writing, preceding the oldest Zapotec writing, dated to about 500 BC.
The hieroglyph-styled Olmec markings are similar to the writing used by peoples in ancient West Africa and Egypt. This evidence makes a strong case for this African Olmec origin hypothesis and helps connect the similarities seen in writing and building in both Egypt and Mesopotamia.
Evidence suggests that due to the solar lunar calendar quarrel in Egypt, the exiled Thoth gathered together Hermetic priests and stone builders from Western African regions and initially sailed to the Guatemala coastline, with the Mandingo Olmec peoples arriving later in Veracruz, Mexico.
Was the goal of Thoth's journey to create an Atlantean civilization in the new lands? The only way to find out for sure is to follow the path of evidence left behind, leading us all the way to Mesoamerica.
Arriving in Veracruz, Mexico, at the base of the Tuxtla Mountains, we find enormous carved stone heads left behind by the Olmec culture, who seem to possess an advanced understanding of the cycles of the heavens.
Who could have given the Olmec people all of their advanced stone masonry skills to carve such intricate statues and monuments? And could it all lead back to ancient Egypt? Let's look a little further.
Deep in the jungles of Veracruz, we find the most important Olmec sites concentrated around the ruined site of La Venta.
Many feel a deep connection to the natural beauty of the Yucatan, and when fully immersed in the jungle, experience an awakening of their souls, often subdued by the imposing chaotic noise of the modern metropolitan life.
Further evidence for the territorial limits recorded by the Olmec are seen further south at the ruins of Tula. Located there are elaborately carved giant statues that show striking similarities to those from the Olmec further north in Veracruz.
What further proof do we have that the Olmec people originated from Africa? When looking at a feature analysis done of the Olmec head statues, one can clearly see African Negordal similarities.
One of the most compelling pieces of evidence we have linking the Olmecs to Western Africa comes from the name itself. The name Olmec means rubber people, as they possessed superior skills in understanding working with rubber trees.
Did the Olmec culture retain knowledge for the cultivation of rubber from their ancestral African home?
Overwhelming evidence published by scholars shows a clear link from Mesoamerican races and those originating from Africa.
The Firestone rubber plant, located in Liberia, is evidence of the importance of rubber to the industrialized world before synthetic replacement was discovered.
The Mayan people, along with the Aztec, Toltec, and Olmec, used 3 different calendars. 2 of the calendars were cyclical, measuring the cycles of the sun, moon, and of Venus, while the 3rd calendar was chronologic, measuring the passage of time from a certain starting point, termed the long count.
Scholars decoding Olmec and Mayan writings calculate the start point to be August 11, 3113 BCE.
The important long count date of 3113 BCE clearly preceded the Mayan civilization in Mesoamerica.
An inscription found at the ancient Mesoamerican pyramid site of Tikal records the number of days that had transpired since the long count in glyph form, allowing researchers to date the inscription to 292 AD.
The decoded date of the Tikal inscription was accomplished by decoding the counting glyph symbols the Maya used for tracking time. Starting at the ones position and ascending upwards in the inscription, we have 15 kin equals 15 times 1, or 15 days. 8 Uanal equals 8 times 20 equals 160 days. 14 Tun equals 14 times 360 equals 40 days. 12 Katun equals 12 times 20 times 360 equals 86,400 days. 8 Baktun equals 8 times 400 times 360 equals 1,152,000 days. The total is 1,243,615 days, or 3,404 years since the long count, August 11th, 3,113 BCE.
What future event was the Mayan long count tracking? And if Ian Lungold was correct, is that possibly happening now?
Strong evidence indicates that Quetzalcoatl, the great god of the Mesoamericas, was none other than Thoth, whose epithet, the plumed or winged serpent, was well known in Egyptian iconography.
Quetzalcoatl, like Thoth, was the god who knew and taught the secrets of temple building, numbers, astronomy, and the calendar.
Could the symbolism of the plumed serpent be the great secret that has been hiding in plain sight all along, connecting the cultures of Mesoamerica to those of Egypt and Sumer?
In Manly P. Hall's Secret Teachings of All Ages, a profound experience occurs between Hermes and Poimandre, who is represented as the great celestial dragon.
Poimander reveals to Hermes that he is the great mind and consciousness of the universe, and commissioned him to be mankind's immortal teacher. Could this be the reason why the winged serpent symbology was adopted by Thoth Hermes, seen mimicked throughout past advanced cultures?
Serpent symbolism can be seen all throughout Mesoamerica, the most famous of which is seen at the Great El Castillo Pyramid in the Yucatan Peninsula at Chichen Itza.
Could the shadowy serpent descending at El Castillo, witnessed by the fall equinox, be an occluded symbolic veneration of Hermes Quetzalcoatl for his epic encounter and commission given to him by the great dragon Poimander?
Recall the biblical story of the Garden of Eden. Eve was purportedly tempted by a serpent to eat the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. We know from Sumerian accounts that it was in Eridu's Eden Garden where the Anunnaki brothers Enlil and Enki monitored the genetic hybrid humans to verify they could reproduce.
Some serpent artistry in Mesopotamia show them wrapped around or guarding the tree of life, just as we see in our biblical Garden of Eden story.
Do the interwoven serpents seen portrayed in the caduceus symbol represent our double helix DNA and the source of universal knowledge? Could they also be interpreted as the same serpents that guard the tree of life?
For as we know, light is the source of life, and is also quantized as 7 distinct wavelengths in the human energy body chakra system, a model widely accepted in society today.
The connections seem to be all around us. This universally recognized symbol of the caduceus is attributed to Thoth Hermes, guardian of the tree of knowledge, as appointed by the great dragon Poimandre.
Our quest to uncover our calendar origins, the players involved, and the clear linkage to Ningshita, Thoth, and Quetzalcoatl has been presented. If the Mayan Toltec calendar is correct, we are now entering the Great Year, which may explain the profound changes we are witnessing as a species.
Join us next time for episode 5 as we uncover conquistador secrets behind their barbarous quest for Aztec and Inca gold.